I am Anthony from Anthony's Creative Classroom, and this is my final episode this month for Christmas in July. I am going to share with you some of Blue Knight's stamps and dies tonight. Blue Knight Rubber Stamps is a paper crafting company that comes from Maryland. I'm going to clear some of this out of the way. These are a couple of the cards we're going to look at tonight. We're going to be using stamps, different kinds of ink, dies, and what's nice are the dies that I'm going to be using tonight. I can run through my Sidekick so I don't have to drag the big shot out. And we're going to be playing with some glitter and some paste and all kinds of fun stuff. So first thing I'm going to show you are a couple of the stamps I'm going to use. So this is the new Snowman set. It comes in 4 sizes, plus has a Merry Christmas greeting, and it also has matching dies. Blue Knight's dies do not leave the white edge. They cut right up to the image. So if you're like me, and you're going to fussy cut that edge off, it saves me a step. This set also has a set of dies for the sled and the lantern. And I used those dies. Let me hold it, I guess, this way. Well, I guess you're not going to see. Here, a little bit on the side. The sled is popped up, and so is the lantern. The cool thing about the lantern is it cuts out the openings. So if you have some colored vellum or acetate, you can stick that behind the lantern for the glass in the light. I didn't do that, but I colored the image that I popped it up on top of, and I'll show you that when we go through the card. And then the sled is also popped up, and what's really cool is it cuts all these spaces out. Let me focus real quick. The die cuts all these spaces out, including the rope on the sled. So it's really cool. On the other card I'm going to show you tonight, I used the little snowman, the tiniest one, on this, and the Merry Christmas greeting. Also tonight we're going to be using this design from the night sky printed paper. And my package says it's matte finished, and I'm going to clear the rest of this out of the way and we're going to get started. So the first card we're going to do is going to be this one, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see, and hopefully I will be able to stay in the lines in the frame tonight. And I'm going to use my small Misty, and I'm going to separate my magnets because I broke a magnet yesterday. And I'm going to position my stamp. I want my stamp to be over this way. On my paper. So let me pick up the stamp. And put in my paper. First thing I want to do is I'm going to stamp on my printed background paper, and I will be using Memories ink for that because I want a really dark, intense ink. This is not one of the new stamps that I'm using. This stamp is called Winter Tree and Fence, and it's just a great stamp to use for any time, whether you're doing Christmas, winter. So let me get this inked up, and I'm using this different ink that's a little bit thicker because I'm stamping on this background paper and I want it to show up really well. So okay, so there's how that looks on that paper. We're going to set this off to the side, And because I'm going to color with alcohol markers, I need to clean the ink off of this stamp because I'm going to switch to Memento. So I don't want to have any residue of that Memories ink on here, because if I do, the Memories ink will bleed from the alcohol marker. There's that cleaned off. Now I'm going to put a piece of 80-pound cardstock in my stamp positioner and put my magnets down, and I'm going to grab my Memento ink pad. And I have two different Memento ink pads going right now. I write on the bottom of my pad, typically when I re-ink my pad. This pad I inked just recently in July. This pad I inked in January. I'm going to guess that's a number 1. And the reason I'm doing that is this ink pad that I just re-inked is real soupy. This one's a little bit lighter, so I don't want a real dark, intense image that I'm going to color over. So that's why I have two different Memento pads. One is not as inked as the other one. And my gray ink pad is just a little bit too light. I'm going to ink up this stamp, and again, I'm using Memento ink. And we're going to stamp this. Okay, so there's my image that's stamped. I'm going to just throw some scrap paper in here so I don't have to clean the stamp off right away. But I want to use this stamp again, so I'm going to just blot off this ink, because for my next step, I need to take the stamp off of, I'm sliding all over the place today. Sorry about that. I'm going to take the stamp off and put it on a block for my next step. Set this on the block, and it doesn't matter if it's even or not because of what I'm going to do. And I want to grab a piece of scrap paper to put underneath my work. And you all will keep me in line if I run off the page. I want to just ink up the tree. You can see on the sample, I used the tree to fill in this little spot at the end of the fence. So I'm going to just ink up my tree, because that's the only part of the stamp I need. And I'm going to stamp it down here. Okay. That's how I'm going to fill in this bottom corner of my image for my card. Now I am going to take a micron pen, and I'm going to continue the snowbank line to the outside of my stamp. I also need a fence post. So I'm just going to take and draw a rectangle. A little bit of line here for the snow on the top. And I'm just going to draw some lines in here to fill that in. And when I color it, you won't see a difference. So you can see from the stamp, it doesn't have a post at the end. So I just took my pen and I drew a rectangle and filled it in a little bit to mimic an end post. So it's that simple. And I just continued these lines to the end of my paper. Okay. So I'm going to start by coloring my fence. And because I used a lighter color weaker inked Memento pad, you can see the lightness of the artwork in here. And because I used the Micron pen, it's permanent ink, the alcohol marker is not going to make that ink run. So now that I've colored it, you can't even tell that it wasn't part of the stamp. The gap is just shorter, and that's okay. Because I need the white part for my scene, I'm going to cut this off on this line. And then this piece will go over top of this piece. So let me grab my scissors real quick. I'm just going to take this top part and cut it off. I mean, I'll use the other side of it for a greeting or something. And then I'm going to come through here, and just on the outside of my line, I'm going to cut off this extra part of the paper. Yep, here's the other side of this piece of paper. So, and I just thought I wanted the moon side for this card. Okay, so here's my foreground for my card. So it's much easier to put a piece of white paper over top, and because I stamped this and this before I moved the stamp, it's very easy to line up. So put that over there. Put this back in the line, in the light. Now I'm going to grab some score tape real quick and attach this part to my card. Finish that down with my fingernail. And I can just peel off the liner. And because I have the lines on here from the stamp, I know where to line this edge of this piece of paper up. Let me zoom out one, because I keep getting off the screen. All right, so the most important thing I want to line up is the trunk for my tree. So that's what I'm going to line up first, is that tree trunk. And then I will come back and line up the rest. And that's how I did the snow part in front of the sky. So the next thing I did, and I already pre-stamped, and I just have to find where I put it, the snowman and my greeting. So I'm just going to color my snowman real quick. I used a gray marker and a red marker, and also a cool gray. The cool gray I'm going to use on the snowman itself, just to add some color to him. Okay, just so he's not plain white, and the artist gave you the marks where to put the shadows. So then I'm just going to take and add a little bit of red on the band of the hat, and a little bit of red on the scarf. And on this one, I'm going to add a little bit of green onto the scarf as well. So let me grab my dies real quick. So I'm going to grab the die for the greeting and for the small snowman. And these dies were very easy to cut apart. It was all one, they were all connected together, but it was very easy to cut apart. I almost didn't need anything to cut them apart. They just kind of snapped apart. So. Okay, so there I've got my dies set up. And I love my Sidekick because I can just suction that down and run the whole thing through all at one time, because it takes 2-inch wide dies. All right. So here's my Merry Christmas, and here's my snowman. All die cut out. Just gonna leave those taped to that paper so I don't lose them. Now I did miss just a little bit on this edge. So I'm just going to take my scissors real quick and clean that edge off. No big deal. And we're just going to trim off the hat. And this extra little bit that's sticking out right here, I'm just going to hit it with my green marker, and then we're good to go. And my gray marker right here next to the hat. And now we're good. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the back of him. Zoom out. Back in the frame. And I just lined him up on a snowbank right here. Pretty much put him wherever you want. Just tap that down. And put this onto a piece of red cardstock. And I'm going to trim that down. Sorry for the noise of the trimmer. The microphone makes it even worse. Okay. So that's trimmed down. I'm going to use some foam tape on my Merry Christmas. I like this foam tape that's in little strips. And I will link that in the description of the video. Press that down. And stick that up on my card. And other than adding some glitter and everything, my card is finished. So that's how fast it was to make that card. So I can take my white gel pen and just add snow to the branches of my trees. And then I can also take the gel pen and add some dots to my card. For snow, which I did not do on the first one. So what I did on the first one is I used the Aleene's glitter snow, and I will show you along the bottom of this, under this fence, how I applied it to my card. I just used, where'd I put it? There it is. Don't put anything down on your table with a clear handle, you'll never find it. I just went in with a paintbrush and I applied the paste to my brush and just came along like this and tapped it from the side. And then you can take it and smooth it out and add some streaks to fill in down below. And I believe you can buy this glitter snow from Blue Night also. And then I know they have it in the booth. What I like about this paste is I don't have to get the heat gun out to make it puffy. And I can add a little bit, tap a little bit on the top of each fence post and on the rails of the fence. I can come back with it too. So, and it doesn't take long to dry. I am going to wipe this off though, so that it doesn't get real hard on the brush. Because I'll have a little bit of time to go wash it out, but not much. So that's how I added the snow to my card. And I'm going to try and zoom in so you can see it better. And if I hold it just right, there, you can see the texture of it. That is card number 1. So what do y'all think? Easy card? Not hard to fussy cut, not hard to stamp. I think it was pretty simple. So this stamp again is not really a Christmas stamp, but it was very easy to use it to make a Christmas card. You could use the glitter snow instead of the gel pen on here. You could also use a quickie glue pen and just use regular glitter. That's taking 2 stamp sets, manipulating the use of the original of this stamp to make the fence a little longer and the top part of the tree to put something down here to fill in the corner. Now I am going to show you another card I made with the Snowman set. We are not going to make it today. Sorry, crafting and coffee. So I made this card this afternoon, and in the lighting I've got today, it just looks a little washed out. So I'm going to hold it up closer to the camera so that you can see the colors. This is really a purple. For some reason, my camera tonight and my lighting is washing it out. I immediately thought about this card because I had this 12 by 12 piece of paper. This was the scrapbook paper that I thought of to make this card. I like it because it's got purples and teals and golds, and it's from a company called Doodlebug. I don't even know if it's from 2014. So this piece of paper has been in my drawer for 12 years. So I used a Spellbinder's nesting die that is an octagon, scalloped octagon. Did the purple, did this. Now I took this big stamp and I stamped it 3 times, colored it, and just fussy cut it out because there was no point in trying to line up the die for the rest of the snowman I didn't use. I only used his head and part of the scarf to make this card. So, and then the greeting is from the stamp set as well. It's all squares other than this. And if you don't have this scallop die, use a circle die, use a square die. It doesn't matter. But I just stamped the snowman 3 times for the head of his. And I used my bow maker to make a bow that is not really sticking. So that's just a cool card. So let me put this back behind me so that I don't smush the glitter snow. And I can set this over here. And I'm going to show you this card right here. This card is the Sled and Lantern stamp. It's 1 stamp. And I stamped it twice. Did my coloring on the whole thing. Then the second time I stamped it, I just colored the sled and the lantern because that's what I was going to cut out. So I want to stamp the background and show you how I colored the background. Let me zoom out and grab a piece of cardstock and put the stamp in my little stamp positioner. And again, I'm going to use alcohol markers, and I want to use that not as inked stamp. Actually, because of the nature of this stamp, we're going to stamp it in brown. If I can find the brown pad. Rich cocoa. Don't know how inked this ink pad is. And just because you're coloring with alcohol markers doesn't mean you have to use the tuxedo black. You can use any Copic marker, any Copic alcohol brand marker with any color memento ink pad. I'm using the rich cocoa right now instead of the black. And it's just going to give me a different look with the brown versus a black. So because a lot of the image is wood themed anyway, the brown is perfect for this. I mean, I'll stamp one in black too, just so you can see the difference. Yeah, okay, good. And I'm not going to worry about cleaning the brown off the stamp. I'm just going to put the black right over top of the brown. So you can really stamp with either color. So, and I'll do a little bit of the coloring on both so you can see the difference. So I'm going to start with the wall over here on the outside. So I will do a little bit of this wall. On both, so you can see the difference. And you can see I like to create some extra shadows and stuff with my Copic marker. So that's on the black. Now we're going to do the brown. And I'm not worrying about this side over here because I'll trim it down when I go to put it on a card. And then I'll come back and add my shading on top of those shade marks that are built into the stamp. It's great when the artist tells us exactly where they want us to put our extra shading. So all these little hatch marks and stuff in the stamp is where we're going to color. So you can color on the brown or on the black. So I'm going to keep going on the one that's black because it will show up better on the camera. So I'm going to come back in here and I need to get my wall right here. And then I'm going to come and get the wall on this side as well. And I can color right over these branches. I don't have to try and color inside of them. And I've got a little bit right here on the inside of the ladder that I need to catch. Okay, and then I'm going to come in and just use the same marker The, the one property about alcohol markers are when you add more layers of the same color, it builds up the color. It's just like using a colored pencil in that respect because of the type of ink. So we can come back in here and add a little bit more in this section as well. Plus, I like when I'm coloring a building that it ends up a little blotchy because that just adds some weathering to the building. So, okay. So this time, to help make this a Christmas card, we're going to have a red sled. So I'm going to come in and color my sled red. And I can come right over and color right over the rope because I'm going to color the rope with black. So I don't have to color around the rope on the sled. And to color in that rope, because it's so small, I'm going to grab a micron pen and just color in the rope. Okay, and I'm going to use the black pen to color in all the little marks where the little screws are on the sled as well. So that's how I would color this card, and you can see the difference with a red sled versus a tan sled. So I'm not going to color the whole card for you tonight, but I do want to show you how I added the glitter to this card. So let me hold it up and zoom in, focus in on it. So you can see, I want to show you what I did where the snow is to give it a little tinting. So I took two light blue markers. I took a darker one. Let me focus. I took a darker marker blue and did my line of my snow. And I took a lighter one and I did all the little hatchings on the ground. Because snow kind of can look blue depending on how the light's going to hit it. And I did not color in all the rest of the image. Now I could put a little bit of gray on that. And I'm using like a purpley gray and just come in and draw some streaks across it to add a little bit more texture down here versus here. Okay, so I'm going to, and you all know me, I am not a loose glitter person at all. If any of my stamping friends are in here, they're already cringing because I don't use it. So I'm going to grab my glue and my glitter, and I'm just going to put some glue over these little marks that I colored. And I'm using a transparent glitter. And where the glitter lands, the glitter lands. So I do want to get some on the rungs of the ladder as well, and a little bit up here on the window ledge. So, and when I'm doing this step with the glitter, I don't try and make my glue smooth. I leave it just a little bit puffy. So you can see when I hold it on an angle how it's kind of puffy because I left the glue in like a longer bead. So you can see it even more on the ladder, how it's puffier. So if you put your glue on a little thicker and dump the glitter on it, the glue will eventually dry and hold the glitter. You can really see it by the lantern where it's puffy. So I either use the Aleene's or the regular glitter with my liquid glue. And pretty much I just have this clear glitter. The other thing that you can use if you don't have this clear glitter is rock candy, but you want the fine, not the chunky. And I did use the dye for the sled, and so that the sled showed up, you can see the sparkle on the card. I used the red glittered jelly roll pen to color the tracks on the sled. So again, this stamp is called Sled and Lantern, and it does come with matching dies. And like I had said, these dies, you can see from this drawing, there is no white border. It cuts right up to the line of the stamp. And that's great with the dies from Blue Knight rubber stamps, because I don't think anybody else makes a die that does not take the border off. And there are some phenomenal die sets. One that I really like that I have is the hot air balloons. So here again are the balloons, and you can see the dies cut right to the image. And this one is not traditional in the layers that I chose for the cardstock. So I am so not always a traditional Christmas person, which you can tell from that card with the teal and the purple and the blue. I'm just sorry this looks so washed out on camera. It really is a stunning card, and I'll put a picture of it on Facebook that will look much better. But someone mentioned in the comments to make this card without this paper, you can just stamp the snowflakes. So I have one other card I want to show you, and the stamp is called Booktown. I'm going to take it out of the package so I don't get as bad a reflection. This is Booktown. Now, and you can see the buildings are actually books. Here's the spines and everything. Let me zoom in so you get a better image of that stamp. So this is Booktown. And what I want to explain to you with this is that your stamps don't have to be a Christmas stamp to make them Christmas. So I did a card today. It was the last card I finished right before dinner with this image. I've been wanting to use this image for like the 4 or 5 years that I've had the stamp. And every time I go to do it, I'm not happy with it, I get sidetracked, and now that I'm not doing my own business and I'm doing creating with other people's products to show them to you on video, I can show you what I did. Let me zoom back out, and I turned this stamp very easily into a Christmas card. Zoom out one more. Okay. So I took Booktown. I kind of used some of the coloring that was in the package. That's another great thing about the stamps from Blue Knight. All of their packaging is color illustrated. So if you're not sure where to start, you can go in that direction. Now I did some of my coloring. I took like the blue and the pinky orange and stuff here and did some of my own thing. So what I did to make this Christmas, I'm going to move the stamp out of the way and I'm going to zoom in on the card. And let me focus it. I took, and around the doors and stuff, I took a Sharpie and say this is my building. Pen's dying already. Grab a pen. So here's my building. Here's my windows. And the windows have the caming in them. And now you can see why I don't draw. Okay, and then like taking this building in the center, it has the door. Okay. And then it has the little transom at the top of the door. So I took my green marker and I just went like this to add like a little pine roping around the door. So you can just take pens and add some detail. And then I take the red and add some berries to it, or lights, or what ornaments, whatever you wanted to make. So on the windows of this building, I took and I drew an X with a couple little tails coming down to mimic a bow. So you can take your stamps and add just some Christmas colors to them to change what it was to what you want it to be. So the only other thing I still need to do to this card is add the glitter for the snow. I drew a couple little bows on the light posts. Did a couple swags on the fence here in front of the bookshop. Also took my pen and made like a wreath on the door with a little bow. So just taking a couple fine point pens and adding some creative detail to it, and how you want to color things can change anything to Christmas. So that's what I have for you tonight. There's the snowman and this. From Blue Knight Rubber Stamps. They're all the stamps that I used tonight and showed, other than the balloons, are listed in the description of the video. The website is there. Any of the other products, ink pads, that kind of stuff that I used is also in the description. If you missed the beginning of tonight's video, it'll show up in like 15 minutes. You can watch it again. I also would encourage you to follow me on YouTube at Anthony's Creative Classroom, because Facebook now only holds our videos for 30 days and then they disappear. Please check out Blue Knight Rubber Stamps. They have a Facebook group called Fans of Blue Knight Rubber Stamps. Phenomenal. Customers post things there all the time, along with the design team people. Again, there's the paper pack. So there's this one with some teals, the bigger moon, and then the one we used tonight in our card. So these are the sheets that are in this paper pack. And there's 40 images, 20 cards, because the cards are all double-sided. So again, thanks for joining me tonight. I hope you all have a great evening, and I look forward to seeing you again next Wednesday. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great evening.